Yeah, and if you think about it, let's say someone, they're a first-time house buyer, they've just bought the house last year, everything's gone up, their mortgage repayments have gone up by £500 a month. Let's say, they want to have a new garden, new patio, whatever, they want to get the tree work done as well, put a deck in, whatever it is they want to do. They're all these plans. Their plans have probably shifted to 2025 now.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to The Outside Crowd, and delighted to be back again with another episode with Ryan.
Yo!
Jake.
Hello.
Billy.
Hello.
And today we're going to, as we're gearing up for 2024, we're trying to have a look and have a discussion about whether your business is actually ready for 2024. We think there's going to be some pretty tough trading conditions, particularly in the early part of the year. So we want to give some ideas about how our companies are dealing with, the potential challenges that the new year is going to bring, and things that we can do, and some ideas that might help all you companies out there as well. And also we'll be inviting you to put in any comments and suggestions, and give some of your own ideas about how other people out there in the industry can improve their companies and their performance. So I suppose the first of all is, what are your thoughts about the oncoming economic conditions? Are you worried about it? Are you challenged by it? So who wants to start with that one?
Yeah, I'm a little worried. You do deal with it, but we've heard from some top landscapers in the game that it is changing. It's not as... We all had it quite good in COVID, during lockdown, and... businesses did start booming, and companies started growing. The work kept coming, didn't stop coming.
Yeah.
And suddenly we found autumn this year, the leads almost died overnight and slowed down. I don't know if the media had an input on it. I don't know if the banking, I don't know if the interest rates made a difference, scared people, stopped people spending money.
Right.
The weather, we don't know exactly, but there's definitely a lull.
Yeah.
And the momentum has definitely slowed.
Stopped, yeah. No,
Does that affect your confidence for going forward, or does it just make you slightly more cautious about what you're going to do and what you're looking to spend?
What have you got, Bill?
I think if you look at what you're up against, what people are up against, end of 2023, beginning of 2024, economically, it's more expensive to buy food, it's more expensive to borrow money, mortgages have gone up, the cost of living in general has gone up, fuel, holidays, going away, everything's more expensive. And I think what you have to try and do is look at where your service fits into that in terms of priorities.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, for me, I'm starting to look at, my services, where do people have to spend that money? So, if I was to move to a more commercial setting, safety works, building works, that sort of thing, you're kind of in an area where actually they have to spend that money. So it's not really a case of, we want to get it done because it lets more light into my garden by reducing this tree. It's more a case of, we need to get this work done because of X, Y, and Z. It's a matter of we have to, as opposed to, So if your business can take that into account and you can move towards that more, I guess that's something I'd like to incorporate into 2024.
Yeah. So looking at where your priorities are.
Yeah, where maybe your priorities are going to change, because if you're just constantly seeking out Mrs. Edkins who wants her tree trimmed because of X, Y, and Z, then you're probably not going to survive it. But if you can move away from that, or you can move your clientele to people where actually that's still really important to them, because, even when there is economic turmoil, there's some customers who still prosper. If you've got a customer who's they're a high net worth earner, and they have lots of disposable income, and they have stocks in certain companies which do really well in terms of economic downturn anyway, then, surely you'll still be okay. So I guess it's just a case of, in terms of it's a very worrying still prospect, but how can you be dynamic? And I think that's what kind of keeps you floating above water.
Well, it's interesting. Sorry.
No, go on, Ryan.
Oh, it was interesting because you're right. I mean, the people that the uncertainty we've had in the last year or two, especially after the pandemic, and then we've got the inflation, everything's gone up. There has been so much uncertainty where it's, like you were saying, Bill, where it needs to happen, where there's somebody coming in, they've to put an extension, they've got to have a tree reduced, or they've got to have things taken out. That has to be done. I guess in our field, where we are now in the private sector doing landscaping in people's gardens, there is a choice there, isn't there? It's should we put this off until, because we've had that. I mean, I've had it last year where we were supposed to do a project, suddenly actually can we move it? And you think, yeah, cool. It's like that does affect us massively, but there is that uncertainty in the market, isn't there?
And if you think about it, let's say someone, they're a first-time house buyer, they've just bought the house last year, everything's gone up, their mortgage repayments have gone up by £500 a month. Let's say they want to have a new garden, new patio, whatever. They want to get the tree work done as well, put a deck in, whatever it is they want to do. They're all these plans. Their plans have probably shifted to 2025 now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, when they had disposable income, they were probably like, that was at the forefront because they had money to spend. But now actually, they're eating into their savings or their pot that they had to do house improvements. That's skipped down to the bottom. They're like, oh, let's knuckle down. Like a lot of people are. Like we are in business. Let's knuckle down and let's just keep. Let's survive.
Let's be safe. Yeah, that's the thing. Let's be safe. Yeah.
I think you'd want to have. Yeah. So I mean, if you're looking at the economic thing, I mean, basically that's the setting in which you're carrying out your work. So it's a very macro position that you need to be aware of. So I would always be suggesting, look at the big picture. Look at the things that are going to give people confidence. So the usual things are things like interest rates. If interest rates stay stable or if they start to drop, then you think people are going to start to feel a bit more positive about what they're going to do because they think they're going to have a little bit more spending power in the pocket. If interest rates go up, then things are going to get tight. And also looking at things like energy bills. So I think it's having an eye on the general position. So I think it's trying to look at the big context of the economic condition and then seeing how your business fits. If it's like to be a bit more money available, great. If not, then it's just being careful about how you want to progress forward. So if you've got the economic conditions in place, I suppose the one thing then is looking at how do you know that your jobs and how can you review the performance of your jobs such that you're working efficiently? Because if people have got less money to spend, they want to make sure that they're spending it on someone who can do it in the most efficient and cost-effective way going. So anyone have any thoughts about how you make your business processes and reviewing your performance on what you do on site and make that as efficient as possible?
Where we now have a monthly management meeting and with our accountant, and we do get profit and loss now on every single project, and we use our quotation pro forma that will then input the amount of days we think it will take.
Yeah,
we can then refer back to that when we have our profit and loss because it is detailed down to the labour time against materials against
because we got our timesheet system, so we do our timesheet system that we can look back on the same again from the quote to the end of the project. Once it's all finished and done, we can have a look at the back of the timesheets and see how many hours we've been on it, if we're over, under, and where we're over and where we're under.
What do you think are the areas where you lose sort of time? Because the one thing, I think we've mentioned this before in other podcasts, is things like disruption on a job. What's the things that disrupt your job rhythm? Because if you're stopping and starting, that's the things that eats into your estimating time. So do you do any reviews of your processes to make sure where you can make them more efficient? Do you have any ideas of which bits you want to improve on?
Well, I think definitely in the last year, it's been our the focus has been happy clients, lovely projects, and then now it's having a look at right now where is the time being spent. We've got a bit more information and it can go into a bit more detail. So then next year, it'll be looking at where those impacts are. And as off the top of my head, it's things like changes. We've got changes with clients, and adding extras on, or because of the ground conditions. We go into a back garden, we're digging in the ground that we have no idea what's there. There's so many surveys you can get, and there's so many bits of information you can get from the pipe layout, the cable layout, but you never know what you're going to find underneath there. So things like that, stopping and having to stop and explain, this is not, we didn't realise there was this, whatever we have here underground here wasn't meant to be there. So, it's, and like I said, the extras, if a client, which it's their garden, we want to build, we're not building our garden, we're building their gardens, but it's very difficult sometimes when I said, would you be able, now having a look at what you can do, or having a look at having a look at the space now it's been dug out, usually it's the thing you suggest in the beginning, can you actually do it? You think yes, but I haven't.
But does that suggest then that the on-site processes could be better in terms of client liaison, so that you're always looking at what you're doing, your client is aware of how you want to work, you're keeping them educated about how you're doing things, so that everything runs efficiently on site, and you try and stop any of the potential hurdles that might be coming up on the job?
Yeah, I think there's an issue with that. It's because, why are they getting a landscaper in? They're getting a landscaper because they don't know how to do it themselves. And so there's only so much there's only so much jargon you can explain to somebody. If you start talking about the ground conditions and what should be there, what shouldn't be there, the eyes roll, I don't care. It doesn't necessarily, I'm not following what you mean. Because they don't understand. I'm talking about we're digging 225 down below DPC. It's something that doesn't, unless it crops up in front of us. I can't always. I know that I hear your question, but it's sometimes very difficult because you're spending more time trying to communicate what ifs and what won't than doing the job.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the art of management, isn't it? And project managing, isn't it? Because you've got to be able to cater for the client expectations. I mean, a lot of cases they will, they've got a design that they want to be implemented. So as long as that's going in, then most of the time they're happy. It's when something comes up which needs to be addressed, like you've hit something in the ground. How do you deal with it? And then that solution that you can put forward. And then how do you actually record that little chunk of work such that you can price it out effectively?
And it's the extras as well, because that's the thing. Once we've the first day we get there, we clear everything out of the way. I'll use my magic spray, and we'll spray everything out and get everything signed off and ticked off. That's what we've quoted for. This is the size. Are you happy to proceed? Yes. But at that time, we're talking about a client looking at their original garden with a load of spray lines over it. And it's so visually it's like, yeah, that's what we've agreed. It's like, yeah, no worries. Once we start digging, we've got that space dug out. Suddenly it's like, oh, do you know what? Actually, we really do want that bit of extra pathway along there. And you think, we go down before we go up, so we get all the dig out done. Suddenly we bring in MOT and every time it's how you can't get to the dig out of the job before you put geotech start to round down and think, right, do you want any more here? The client can't see it, so we've got MOT in there. We're out of the mud, we're up out of the ground, and suddenly, can you go back? Can you do this? Yes, we can, but we need to do that now.
So the key thing here then is making sure that, from your perspective, is making sure that you're aware of what those variations are, being able to map the time that it takes to do it, to articulate to the client as best you can without getting bogged down with their requirements. Trying to get that on. How do you, Jake, manage your team so that they know exactly what they're doing and they're not standing around and they're not being inefficient? Not saying that they are, but how do you make sure that they're always working as efficiently as possible?
I think without coming across as like a bad boss sort of person, if you give them enough work for 2 days to do in 1 day, there's always something to do. So I don't pressure people with, we've run out of money, even though sometimes you are. You can't put that on them, because a lot of the time it does come down to the estimating. But if you give people a variation of jobs that need to be done then they do know if it is raining, this can be done.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not raining, you can go back to doing this. And it's just giving them enough work and a good idea of the start. So we do a CAD drawing for every job.
Yeah.
And that's printed out, laminated, given to the team leader. And they don't always work from it completely, but it's a guide. That's what the customer has accepted with me, as that's how they want the final deck to look like. But on site, it won't always work to the millimetre. There's slight variations and stuff. They make that call.
Do you find that they have enough project management ability to be able to make those decisions on site if something changes or something happens, or do they need to come back to you? And is that something that could be improved in terms of efficiency?
Well, because we now do our decking and cladding, everybody's trained to the same.
Yeah.
Maybe not in leadership skills, but definitely in installation skills.
Right.
Everybody is at the same or very similar standards and have the same tool experience. So because we're quite limited on the products we install, everybody is educated to the max with every one of those products. So they can all do it. They can all get on with it. They all know the products inside out. They know the tips, tricks, variations, what you get over. They know.
Yeah.
So it's just when you throw a new product in the mix, it's a lot slower. It's a lot back and forth in with the manufacturer, double checking, is this normal, is this not? Yeah, so it's just about keeping people up to date with all the installation things, so you don't have to worry as much.
Yeah, but I think...
Sorry, Bill, I was just going to ask you something sort of slightly different, because I said earlier we've been talking about staff. We come back onto this, something you want to raise as well.
Yep.
But team performance, what do you think is the important things to consider in getting your team to work more effectively than they have done this year? And that's not to criticise them. It's like any company should be looking at the performance that's been done over the last year and looking at how can they work better as a team. What do you think is going to inspire them? What's going to make you feel more confident as a business leader managing your team such that you can then move on to the business side of things as well, while your team can do a lot of the actual installation work or dismantling work in your case?
I would say it's making sure everyone is doing the job that they're best suited for and that they're working the best at, and making sure everyone feels as if they're progressing, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you're stagnant within your job, I don't think. So that's something to review. And I think in terms of, making sure the team's working whilst they're on the job in the most effective manner, it would be a case of making sure everyone within that job is aware of the specification of the job. There's obviously going to be someone who's, a leader who you've assigned, but everyone needs to know what the spec of the job is and how long you've got to do it. So I know, in times in the past, it's been like we all know what's going on, but there's been add-ons that haven't been mentioned to everyone else that they, essentially could have been cracking on with whilst there was a bit of standing around or something like that, which is what we're trying to focus on now, to make sure that everyone is busy all the time, and that there's not people standing around, basically.
Right.
Well, because I guess if someone's up, if you've got, you're up in that tree and the client's come out in the morning and said, would you mind trimming that edge next to the other one? And the lad's gone, right, yep, I know what we're up to today. He's gone over there with the hedge cutter and he's cut that one, walked back with the hedge cutter, went back with the rake and think, well, hang on a minute, that one needs to be cut. That time there, if he knew,
Yeah, or like, for example, the customer's keeping the logs, they want them all split, it's included in the price. Someone could have been splitting that up while the person's setting up in the next tree.
Yeah, sure.
It's just things like that. I mean, normally pretty good at that, letting everyone know so you can be busy. But I think making sure people are in the right place within the company is really important.
And bought into the vision of what your company is. And bought into the
vision, yeah. So just explaining, where you want the company to go and where you see them in the future. like if someone's particularly interested in climbing, it's, you know, we're going to get you doing this. This is where I can see you working, and making sure that they are, you know, they're working towards it. They might not be doing all the climbing, but, you know, they're getting involved in it, and they can see that they're progressing somewhere.
You teach
and it's also, you know, getting them the right qualifications for it, and saying, right, once you've done this, we can get you this qualification. And then, you know, you feel included and you feel part of the company. And I suppose it's making everyone feel valued.
It's making everyone part of the team mentality. And the thing is, I try. There's no hierarchy. You know, for me, it's kind of I try my best to run it as we're all doing this together. If one of us is down, we're all down. You know, it's like, look, and it, asking that question. You know, what do you like? What do you like most out of your job? What do you hate? You know, it's everyone has likes and dislikes. But we've got a lad, Ty. He's been working with us now for a wee while, and I tell you what, every time you see a machine turn up, the eyes go. You know, a digger turns up. Ooh. Do you like a digger? You know, yep. You know, so it's you know, it's because you know the information. You're like, well, you know, that's an interest to you. It's while they're walking past you and you're doing something in the digger. It's like, just to let you know, this is what I'm doing, this and why. I've got my blade that side of me because of this to happen. This is going to happen. And interestingly enough, you know, a couple of days later, the digger was parked on a load of Type 1. And I said, just fill that barrier up there for me. You know, it was, all right. And it was, you know, there was something that happened. He could see my blade was where I put it at the beginning. And it was kind of, you know, it clicked and went, that's why you have it there. It's like, yes. That's why the blade's there, because of that. And how do you remember? You remember it from 2 days ago. You know, it's feeling a part of it, which is, it's quite nice.
I think with all these things with staff performance, I think it's staff are part of your team. And if you've got good staff, you've got to look after them as much as you can, because that's going to give you security within your company so that you're not going to have the disruption of losing people and then trying to find new people. So if you can make sure that they're engaged in the company and they understand what their roles are, what their responsibilities are, how they're valued within the company, and they know that they've got a company that's going somewhere and has got a vision, then they're going to feel a lot more confident in staying, and they won't feel the need to actually move somewhere else. Because if they don't feel confident in the company or that the company's going anywhere, they're thinking, well, why am I staying? So you've got to give them that confidence to stay within the company. I mean, that would be my key things with staff. And I think that also then buys into business planning for companies as a whole. Because if we're looking into a challenging 2024, what do you actually want to get out of it? What's your... to find out whether your company is actually going to be successful in 2024, you need to know where you're going. You need to know what success is going to be defined as. So I would always be looking at and saying, well, have a clear business plan vision as to what do you actually want to set out as your key steps to achieve your success in 2024. What will success look like at the end of, you know, December the 31st, 2024? Does it mean just surviving? Does it mean making a certain amount of profit? Does it mean growing? What is it? I mean, what do you guys think? What do you think success would look like? And what's the sort of general visions that you want to set out for your company and which you'd talk to your staff about?
I would say, for me, success in the short term would be having a set business plan, which I feel like I do have now. And monthly management meetings to see that we're actually hitting the targets on the plan the actual. And I think that I would feel like I'm, you know, the company's being successful, because if I went by the plan I've got, I mean, I wouldn't lay out a business plan that didn't look like success to me.
Yeah.
So if we're actually doing what is on the plan or better, then I would say that is how I'd measure the success of the company.
You raised 3 magic words to me, I heard in there. Plan the actual.
Yeah.
Got you going, didn't it?
Easy, sit down. What do you mean by that? Because I think that's something that a lot of small businesses don't do. And forgive me, small businesses, if you're not doing it. If you're not doing it, you should be.
Well, that's
what do you mean by plan the actuals and cash flow? What's your views on that? Or do you want me to wax lyrical on that one?
Wow, album out next year, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've started our plan the actual. As Bill mentioned there, it's quite important because it's good to see where the business is going, if the decisions you've made on the estimating are actually working, if any changes you've made are working. And it's good to have a target and get to that target. If you haven't got to that target, why haven't you?
Yeah.
And it's good to see how the changes you've made are working, if they're working, if they were effective, and it just gives you something to go by.
Yeah.
And
because you've set it out for the whole year, haven't you? So you've got a month by month breakdown.
Yeah, so
Costs, sales.
like Bill mentioned, we've put our plan in place for 2024.
Yep.
And it's quite ambitious, but it is realistic if everybody does their job well, correct and efficient. And
because the one thing with that, isn't it? Because if you built up everything from first principles, so if you're saying like at the end of the year you're going to do X amount of turnover, and then you split that up over the months, and then you've got your costs and everything, you can then measure your actual performance on that month by month basis, and then start analysing that on a line by line basis to see generally, are your overheads too much? Are you spending too much on your overheads or not enough? Are you making enough sales income? If not, why? And then you can drill down into your jobs and see whether your jobs, have you got enough jobs? Are you making enough money out of enough jobs? Are they costing you too much? So it seems like you've got a good setup there to be able to analyse your business performance.
Yeah, I feel like the best thing I did is employing people that already have the experience, because when I was starting people from scratch almost, although it is rewarding and it's good for the company and you can build them, you can morph them into the perfect person, it does take a lot of time and it takes a lot of mistakes and it takes a lot of your time where you could be actually progressing with a job. But in the new year, we will look to starting again, taking on people at a very early stage, letting them learn the ropes. Somebody who's actually enthusiastic and wants to learn the trade, wants to learn about decking, cladding, the products we use, and morph them into a mini me, because it will get to a point where I do need to do other things and I will need someone to take over. But as part of the plan next year, we will introduce not necessarily younger guys or girls, but the people that are less experienced that want to develop, are keen.
Who are going to be the next year's managers and leaders of the company.
Yeah, because it doesn't take long to pick up. If you've got a certain skill set, it's quite not so much. It's easy to learn how to do it, but doing it is a little, like the processes and the installations can be taught to anybody by reading and speaking to people.
Yeah.
But it's the actual doing. It's the practical side of it, and you're face to face with a window that's not square.
Yeah.
How are you getting over that with your cladding? How are you getting over a door that's wonky, that's not level, but your cladding's in plumb? Mm-hmm. What do you do? And it's all the little things you learn with experience.
Yeah, well, that's it. You can't teach that. Yeah, I mean that's experience that comes with it. It's the fundamentals, and that's why the teaching that I do with the guys, the lads I've had over the years. It's been great watching everybody grow, but I know what you mean. It does take a long time, and then cheers squeaks, go to Australia, good man. But, lads want to go travelling. Fair play to them. But it does take a long time. It's that fundamentals of why. My question is, why is that there, and what does it do? Will it stay there? So when you do get a young lad who comes up against something, going, oh, hang on, this doesn't look right. Because you notice that's plumb, that's not. It's then that decision has to come from someone with confidence, someone who knows where they're.
Do you also find it rewarding when you hear one of the guys that you've given advice to telling a newer guy
absolutely.
the same advice that you once gave them, and it's quite rewarding that they actually took it on board and now they're trying to pass on that information.
I have that at the minute.
One, so you want to move it on because we're getting towards the end of our thing. One of the other, the important thing is, because we've covered quite some good areas, but the obviously fundamental one which we haven't covered is making sure you've got enough sales into your pipeline and how you're actually going to make sure that you've got enough sales in there. What do you think are the important things to actually winning business, and what are you going to do to drive traffic and make sure that there's enough in your pipeline?
So what we're going to do is we're going to it's the being responsive with quotations. I mean, for me, that time that I spend, on the jobs doing them, because actually, what we're all talking about here might sound quite scary to some people. Plan B actuals, this, that, and this. I just want to do the job, but being able to do the job, run the business, and bring more work forward. For me, it's being very responsive with them leads. Getting them.
I think that's a key thing.
Responsiveness is massively important. Definitely, if you can be that company that's easy to deal with, you call them up, or so you get called up. You're round there within a very quick time frame. And you've replied to them with a quotation, as quickly as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. You're now a company that's very, very easy to deal with. They might have other people come round, they and and they can come, they've missed a few dates, whatever. They've taken ages to get the quote over to you. And also the liaison between you and them and on the email chain is not great, or you don't answer your phone, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. People get annoyed with you after a while, and they just don't want to deal with you.
You would.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Well, I think responsiveness is a very good one. But in terms of getting customers into the pipeline and work ahead of us, it's just looking over our marketing. What are we doing about it? What other avenues, as I said, about like 2024? What other kind of customers do we need to be targeting, and how do we do that? And we've got a plan for that, and it's just implementing it in the new year. And it's a big part of that is, as we've mentioned before, is working on the business as opposed to in the business.
Yeah,
nice.
So we've changed a few things as well. We're looking into a well-made, easily navigated website, and it does cost money. It's taking a little time, but it is important because Google and the website are the first impression any client gets of your company, apart from the phone call and how you answer the phone, if you do answer the phone. So we are looking into a manned phone, so somebody who can answer the phone if I can't, diversions maybe, because sometimes I am on the tools, and the company number at the moment is my number, and we're looking into getting an office number, a phone that is manned by somebody, admin help.
What, an external company?
Potentially a freelance, like admin.
There's a couple of them around. There are a few of them, eh? Who,
but also we are looking to get somebody in house.
I always think it's
part of our
something
plan. We have got somebody coming in house.
Yeah, I think that's important. Always having someone in house.
Well, we do. We have someone in the new year coming.
Have you?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think with the big thing with the marketing side of things, it's like there's got to be a variety of sources. I think everybody knows essentially what needs to be done. It's having consistency about what you're doing. You've got to have lots of different sources of ideas. So you'll be doing your Google stuff, you'll be doing your SEO, you'll be doing all the things that you need to do for your domestic clients. If you've got commercial clients, then you need to be doing research to find out who are those types of people, companies that you want to be working with. What are the ones that are the right fit for your company? You need to be undertaking a complete sort of audit of your marketing processes to look at what you're doing, where you're spending your money, and whether you're spending your money efficiently. Because if you're not, other people will be, and they'll be getting better work from you. So you need to be having multiple sources of leads and quotes coming in, and then you need to be acting on them
and tracking
consistently.
Them. Yeah, and tracking them is the most important thing, because but like we did for the Google ads. Yeah. To be honest, if we didn't have we sat down a couple of times and looked at the inquiry schedule and saw the source of it, and then you can figure out the percentage of the cost, but the return on investment, and realise actually it's actually not as cost effective as you think, because it's some forms of marketing are a massive monthly outgoing, and if it's not you know, if the ROI is not there, you know, you're going to run out of money quick.
Yeah.
And if there's small wins that you can get elsewhere, more traditional types of advertising, then go for it.
Go for it.
And that might change, you know, as the market changes, it might
Yes,
change.
definitely. It's being flexible and being responsive.
Yeah, it's just like with the Google ads, you can track, you know, at what time of year, how much are people typing in that specific thing. And so if you're not looking at that, but you're still advertising through that and spending £1,500 a month on Google,
Yeah.
what's the point?
Yeah. Track the results, track all the results, watch everything, and then try and you should also be having a pipeline system that allows you to sort of like throw more and more stuff into the pipeline so that you're tracking metrics like how many quotations are we getting, how many inquiries are we getting a month, how many meetings with clients are we getting, how many opportunities are we getting to quotes, what's our quote conversion success, how much does that generate. All those types of things need to be tracked and need to be part of it, and you need to look at it as part of your sales process, and then looking at your sales process as well when you go and see clients and how you interact with them such that you can build rapport and trust and they want to use you. We are coming to the end. Are there any other sort of final points that you guys want to throw in which you think are important to raise it?
I just think this time of year, which is a particularly hard time of the year, especially in service-based businesses, because you're like the light is really restricted. There's only so much you can do in the day.
Yep.
You have to think about quoting on that. There's just in general a lot less inquiries, and I think it's just a time for reflection and reviewing everything you do and go into 2024 with a bang.
How about you, Jake?
I just feel like having that break at Christmas is really important. It does help you reflect on what you've done, what you're doing differently in the new year, and just trying to get a good plan in place.
Good stuff. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it is good to look back. The word reflect has been thrown around, so I'll say it. But, you know, it is good to look back on what's happened last year. You know, have that well-deserved time with family. You know, for us, a little part of me is very excited to get all my tools sharpened, put away before next year. But get everything out, everything cleaned, everything put away, so we're ready to start next year. You just start fresh.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it's a new year. Let's go. You know.
Yeah.
Well up for it.
Good stuff. I mean, okay, then, so if we had a quick review of what we covered, I mean, the things to look out for is like be aware of what the economic conditions are going to be for 2024. Keep an eye out on what the news is saying, interest rates, and what the general sort of feel is the industry, because that's going to reflect people's confidence. Look at your own job performance, look at how you carry out jobs and what the efficiency is and how you can improve, make little improvements. 5 to 10% improvements are likely to make big performance increases in your company. Review your estimating times. Look at your staff performance. Motivate your staff. Get them on board so they're bought in with the vision of your company. Get some sort of plan, the actual process for your company, so you can budget and you know where you're planning to be going forward to during the year, what you plan to be making against what you actually are. Start to look at business planning, and what's the other bits and pieces. Yeah, they're probably the main things, I think, and also having multiple sources of marketing. If you can generate lots of multiple sources of marketing, if you can actually have a variety of sources of marketing, so that you've got, you know, you're throwing seeds out there, especially during the times when it's really quiet. You don't want to get dispirited if you haven't got work coming in. Do something and be proactive during those periods and keep marketing. I think if you follow those, then you'll be a multi-mega company by the end of next year.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
So, no, wish you all well, everyone, for 2024. And it's been great talking with these boys. Ryan?
See you later. Have a nice Christmas, guys.
Jake?
I hope you had a nice Christmas, guys.
Bill?
Have a good Christmas.
It'd be Easter.
Happy Easter by the time this goes out.